the derelict Discovery DR. Sarah Chen stood on the deck of the research vessel Pacific Explorer, watching the morning sun paint golden streaks across the endless ocean. 3 days ago, satellites had detected something massive hitting the water 500 miles west of Hawaii. The impact had sent shockwaves around the world, but strangely, no tsunami had followed. Whatever had fallen from the sky was big enough to level a city, yet the ocean had simply swallowed it whole. Sonar contact confirmed, called out Lieutenant Rodriguez from the bridge. It's sitting on the ocean floor, 2 miles down. And doctor, it's huge. Sarah adjusted her headset and peered at the monitor showing the sonar readings. The object was nearly a quarter-mile long and shaped unlike anything she had ever seen. It wasn't the jagged, irregular mass of a meteorite. This thing had smooth curves and sharp angles, like someone had designed it. "Get the submersibles ready," she ordered. "We're going down for a closer look." The international team aboard the Pacific Explorer represented the best minds from 12 different countries. When something this strange happened, the world's governments had learned to work together first and ask questions later. Sarah led the American contingent, but the crew included marine biologists from Japan, engineers from Germany, and deep-sea specialists from Norway. 6 hours later, Sarah squeezed into the cramped cabin of the deep-sea submersible Triton. Beside her, Dr. Yuki Tanaka from Tokyo University checked the camera equipment for the 3rd time. The pilot, Captain Eric Larson, had made this journey to the ocean floor more than anyone else alive. "Beginning descent," Eric announced over the radio. "Surface control, we are going dark for 40 minutes. The submersible dropped through the layers of ocean like a stone through honey. Sarah watched the sunlight fade from bright blue to deep green, then to black. The pressure gauge climbed steadily. 2 miles of water pressed down on their tiny metal shell. "Contact in sight," Eric said suddenly. Sarah pressed her face to the porthole and gasped. Rising from the ocean floor, like a sleeping giant, was something that definitely did not belong on Earth. The object gleamed with a dull silver light that seemed to come from within its walls. Its surface was smooth as glass but covered in strange patterns that hurt to look at directly. "It's a ship," whispered Yuki. "It has to be a ship." The craft was enormous. From their position, Sarah could see it stretched far beyond their lights in both directions. The design was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Flowing curves connected to sharp spikes. Sections that looked solid seemed to shift and move when she wasn't looking directly at them. "Take us around the front," Sarah instructed. Eric guided the submersible along the massive hull. As they moved, their lights revealed details that made Sarah's scientific mind race. The surface wasn't just smooth metal. It was covered in symbols and markings that definitely weren't human. Some areas looked damaged, with dark scars running across the silver surface. "There," Yuki pointed excitedly. "Do you see that?" Near what might have been the front of the craft, a section of the hull had been torn open. Not broken by impact, but deliberately removed from the inside. Twisted metal curled outward like flower petals. "Someone cut their way out," Eric observed. "Or something cut its way in," Sarah muttered. They spent the next hour circling the massive vessel, taking hundreds of photographs and video recordings. The ship appeared to be completely dead. No lights, no energy readings, no signs of life. But the most disturbing discovery came when they found the markings near the damaged section. The symbols were carved deep into the hull, each one the size of a car. Even though they were clearly alien in origin, somehow Sarah could almost understand them. The shapes seemed to convey meaning directly to her brain, bypassing language entirely. "Yuki, are you getting the same feeling I am about these symbols?" The Japanese scientist nodded slowly. "They feel like warnings or maybe labels?" Sarah studied the markings through the camera feed. One group of symbols gave her the distinct impression of failure. Another seemed to mean dangerous or broken. But the largest symbol, carved deepest into the alien metal, felt like disposal or throwing away. This isn't a crash site, she realized. Someone dumped this thing here on purpose. When the submersible finally returned to the surface, Sarah immediately called for a secure video conference with the International Oversight Committee. Within hours, representatives from the United Nations, NASA, the European Space Agency, and a dozen other organizations were listening to her preliminary report. The vessel is clearly of non-human origin, she explained to the faces on her screen. But here's what's really interesting. Whoever built it threw it away. The markings suggest they considered it a failed experiment, too dangerous to keep, but too valuable to destroy. General Morrison from the Pentagon leaned forward. Are you saying aliens used our ocean as a garbage dump? That's exactly what I'm saying. And based on the size and complexity of this thing, it was probably their most advanced piece of garbage. Dr. Petrov from the Russian Academy of Sciences spoke up. What condition is the technology in? Can we study it? Sarah smiled for the first time in days. The hull appears intact in most places. The internal systems are unknown, but the vessel seems to be in remarkably good condition for something that was abandoned. My recommendation is that we establish a permanent research station and begin salvage operations immediately. Salvage operations for an alien starship, General Morrison repeated slowly. Do we have any idea what we might be getting ourselves into? No, Sarah admitted. But think about it this way. An alien civilization built something so advanced, so potentially dangerous, that they couldn't figure out how to make it work safely. So they threw it away rather than risk keeping it. She paused, looking at each face on the screen. Now that technology is sitting on our ocean floor, waiting for us, maybe we can succeed where they failed. Maybe human ingenuity can solve problems that stumped an entire alien race. Or maybe, Dr. Petrov said quietly, they threw it away because it was too dangerous for anyone to possess. Sarah nodded. There's only one way to find out. We go down there, we study it, and we learn everything we can. Because ready or not, we're no longer alone in the universe. And if there are aliens out there advanced enough to build ships like this, we need to understand their technology. The vote to proceed was unanimous. Within a week, the most secretive and ambitious salvage operation in human history was underway. The world's greatest minds were about to discover that one civilization's failure could become another's greatest weapon. Reverse engineering the impossible. 3 years had passed since the alien vessel was discovered on the ocean floor. What had started as a simple salvage operation had become the largest international project in human history. The ship now rested in a massive underground facility carved into the mountains of Nevada. Hidden from satellites and curious eyes, Dr. Sarah Chun walked through the main laboratory, still amazed by how much they had accomplished. The facility, officially called the International Xenotechnology Research Center but known to everyone as the Vault, employed over 3,000 of the world's brightest scientists and engineers. Alien ships sat in the center of a cavern the size of 10 football fields. Massive cranes and scaffolding surrounded it like a mechanical spiderweb. Work lights illuminated every inch of the silver hull, revealing details that still made Sarah's breath catch after all this time. Morning briefing in 5 minutes, announced Dr. James Wright, the project's chief engineer. The tall British man had arrived at the facility as a skeptic, but had become the alien ship's greatest champion. We've got some interesting developments overnight. Sarah joined the daily briefing in the main conference room. Around the table sat the department heads from every major nation on Earth. Dr. Tanaka from Japan led the electronics team. Professor Mueller from Germany headed materials research. Dr. Petrov from Russia supervised weapons analysis. Captain Rodriguez, promoted from his naval position, managed security and tactical assessment. Report. Sarah called the meeting to order. Dr. Wright activated the main display, showing a three-dimensional model of the alien ship's interior. After 3 years of careful exploration, we finally mapped the entire vessel. The good news is that it's not damaged as badly as we initially thought. The bad news is that it's far more complex than anything we've ever seen. The display zoomed in on the ship's core. This appears to be the main power system. It's unlike any energy source in our experience. No fusion, no fission, no chemical reactions. The aliens seem to be drawing power directly from space itself. Professor Mueller leaned forward. The materials analysis is equally puzzling. The hull is composed of elements that shouldn't be able to exist in stable form. According to our periodic table, this stuff should decay in microseconds. But here it sits, 3 years later, perfectly intact. What about weapons? General Morrison had been promoted to oversee the military aspects of the project. Can we figure out what this thing was designed to do? Dr. Petrov brought up a new section of the ship on the display. This is where it gets interesting, General. The ship appears to be designed as a weapon, but not like any weapon we understand. Instead of projectiles or energy beams, it seems designed to alter reality itself. Silence fell over the room. Even after 3 years of impossible discoveries, that statement was hard to accept. Explain, Sarah said quietly. The central weapon system appears to manipulate matter at the quantum level, Dr. Petrov continued. It can literally rewrite the laws of physics in a localized area, turn solid matter into energy, energy into matter, even alter the flow of time itself. Captain Rodriguez whistled softly. No wonder the aliens considered it a failure. A weapon like that could destroy the people using it as easily as their enemies. Dr. Wright nodded. We found evidence of catastrophic feedback loops throughout the ship's systems. Every time the aliens tested the weapon, it nearly destroyed the vessel. The safety shutdowns are incredibly complex, but even they weren't enough to prevent dangerous instabilities. Sarah studied the display showing the weapon's core. Have we tried activating any of the systems? Small tests only, Dr. Tanaka spoke up. We managed to power up some of the secondary systems using conventional fusion reactors. The results were educational. We accidentally turned a steel wrench into gold, created a temporary gravity well that pulled in everything within 50 feet, and opened what appeared to be a hole in space-time that took 6 hours to close. After that, Dr. Wright added, we decided to focus on understanding before experimenting. Professor Mueller activated a new display showing human technology integrated with alien systems. But we have made some breakthroughs. Human engineering approaches this problem differently than the aliens did. They tried to create perfect, elegant solutions. We use brute force and redundancy. The display showed human computers connected to alien control systems, human power sources backing up alien energy converters, and human safety systems layered over alien automation. We're essentially creating a hybrid, Professor Mueller continued. Alien precision guided by human practicality. Where they used one elegant system, we used 10 crude but reliable backups. Dr. Wright smiled. It's like the difference between a Swiss watch and a tank. The tank might not be as elegant, but it keeps working even when things go wrong. Sarah leaned back in her chair. Are you telling me that we can make this weapon system work safely? We think so, Dr. Petrov answered. The aliens tried to control quantum forces directly. We're building containment systems that can handle the power even if we can't control it perfectly. If the alien system wants to turn matter into energy, we build channels to direct that energy safely. If it creates gravity distortions, we build compensators to counteract them. Captain Rodriguez studied the tactical implications. What kind of weapon are we talking about? How powerful? Theoretically unlimited, Dr. Wright replied. The system can convert any matter into any other matter, create or destroy energy at will, and manipulate the basic forces of nature. In practical terms, it could dismantle enemy ships atom by atom, create defensive barriers out of empty space, or turn asteroids into fleets of spacecraft. General Morrison shook his head. I'm starting to understand why the aliens threw this thing away. A weapon that powerful would be impossible to control in combat. Not if we treat it like humans treat all powerful technology, Sarah said thoughtfully. We don't try to control it perfectly. We build systems that can handle imperfection and keep working anyway. Dr. Tanaka nodded enthusiastically. Like aircraft. We don't build planes that never crash. We build planes that can handle emergencies and keep flying even when systems fail. Exactly. Sarah stood and walked to the main display. The aliens tried to build a perfect weapon. We're going to build a reliable weapon. Something that works even when everything goes wrong. She turned to face the assembled team. How long before we can attempt a full system integration? The department heads exchanged glances. Finally, Dr. Wright spoke. 6 months for the basic hybrid systems. Another year for full weapon integration. But, Sarah, we're talking about rebuilding an alien starship using technology we barely understand. There's no guarantee it will work. There's no guarantee it won't work either, Sarah replied. And given what we've learned about alien technology, I'd rather have a working weapon system and not need it than need one and not have it. General Morrison frowned. Are you expecting trouble, Doctor? Sarah looked at the image of the alien ship on the main display. General, somebody built this thing for a reason. Something out there was dangerous enough that an advanced alien civilization felt they needed a reality warping super weapon to fight it. The fact that they failed to make it work properly and threw it away doesn't mean the threat disappeared. She paused, letting that sink in. We may not be alone in finding their garbage. And if we're not, I want to make sure we can turn their failure into our success. The room fell silent as everyone contemplated the implications. Somewhere in space, there might be enemies powerful enough to require weapons that could reshape reality itself. And humanity was about to find out if human engineering could succeed where alien science had failed. First contact and first blood. First sign that humanity was no longer alone came on a Tuesday morning when every radio, telescope on Earth simultaneously detected the same signal. Dr. Sarah Chun was in the middle of a systems test aboard the newly renamed UES Redemption when the emergency alerts started flooding her communication panel. Dr. Chun to the bridge. Captain Marcus Rodriguez's voice echoed through the massive ship. We've got company. Sarah hurried through corridors that had once been alien and sterile but now hummed with human activity. The bridge was a perfect example of their hybrid approach. Alien displays showing impossible mathematics sat next to human computer monitors running familiar software. The captain's chair was pure Earth military, bolted directly to an alien command platform. Report, Sarah said as she entered the bridge. Lieutenant Commander Park looked up from his station. Massive energy signatures appearing throughout the solar system. Whatever's coming, it's big, and it's using technology similar to what we've got here. The main screen activated, showing a view of space near Jupiter. As they watched, reality seemed to tear open like fabric, and ships began emerging from the wound in space-time. The vessels were beautiful and terrible, looking like crystal cathedrals crossed with weapons of war. 14 ships so far, reported Lieutenant Torres from the sensor station. Wait, make that 20. They're still coming through. Captain Rodriguez turned to Sarah. Any chance these are friendly visitors? Before she could answer, Every communication device in the solar system activated simultaneously. The voice that spoke was clearly artificial, but carried the weight of absolute authority. Primitive inhabitants of the Third World. We are the Cathara. You possess stolen property belonging to our empire. Surrender the vessel known as Judgment's Edge immediately, and your deaths will be swift. The bridge fell silent. Sarah felt her stomach drop as she realized the implications. They're talking about this ship. The vessel will be retrieved along with any contaminated technology, the voice continued. Prepare for collection. Resistance will result in the sterilization of your system. Captain Rodriguez activated the communication array. Unknown vessels. This is Captain Marcus Rodriguez of the United Earthship Redemption. Formerly the vessel you call Judgment's Edge. We're willing to negotiate, but we won't surrender our ship or our system. The response was immediate and cold. You dare to rename sacred technology? You defile our greatest creation with your primitive additions? There will be no negotiation. Prepare for judgment. The communication cut off. On the main screen, the alien fleet began moving toward Earth. All stations, battle alert. Captain Rodriguez announced calmly. This is not a drill. Sarah strapped herself into the science officer's station. Around her, the bridge crew activated systems that had never been tested in actual combat. Human-designed tactical displays lit up alongside alien sensor arrays that could peer through space-time itself. Sarah, the captain said quietly, how confident are we in these weapon systems? She looked at the readings scrolling across her displays. The hybrid technology was functioning perfectly, but they had never faced anything like this. The simulations look good, Marcus. But we're about to find out if human engineering can stand up to the people who originally built this technology. The first alien ship reached Earth's orbital space within hours. It was massive, easily twice the size of the Redemption, and covered in the same crystalline armor that had originally protected their vessel. Incoming transmission, Lieutenant Torres announced. The main screen flickered to show the interior of the alien ship. The being that appeared was tall and thin, with skin that seemed to shift between silver and blue. Its eyes were large and dark, and when it spoke, its voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. I am Fleet Commander Zarath of the Cathara Empire. You will power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. The stolen vessel will be reclaimed along with any beings who have been contaminated by contact with it. Captain Rodriguez stood up. Commander, I'm Captain Rodriguez. That ship wasn't stolen. We found it abandoned on our ocean floor. Your people threw it away. The alien's expression shifted to something that might have been surprise, then quickly hardened into anger. Judgment's Edge was not abandoned. It was placed in protective isolation after suffering cascade failures. No primitive species has the right to claim Cathara technology. We didn't just claim it, Sarah said, stepping forward. We fixed it. The silence that followed was deafening. The alien commanders stared at them as if they had just claimed to have invented mathematics. Impossible, Commander Zarath finally said. The quantum cascade failures were beyond solution. Our greatest engineers worked for centuries without success. Your greatest engineers tried to make it perfect, Sarah replied. We made it reliable. She gestured to Lieutenant Torres, who activated a display showing the hybrid systems throughout the ship. We added redundancy, backup systems, and safety protocols that can handle imperfection. Your people tried to control forces too powerful to control. We learned to work with them instead. The alien commander studied the display for a long moment. When he looked back at them, his expression had changed to something approaching respect. But it quickly hardened again. It matters not. Cathara technology belongs to the Cathara. You will surrender the vessel, or we will take it by force. Captain Rodriguez sighed. I was hoping we could avoid this. Commander Zarath, Your ship is in Earth's orbital space without permission. You have threatened our planet and demanded we surrender our property. I'm ordering you to leave our system immediately." The alien commander's laugh was like breaking glass. "Your primitive weapons cannot threaten Cathara vessels. We will take what is ours." The communication cut off. On the tactical display, the alien ship began charging its weapons. "All hands, prepare for combat," Captain Rodriguez announced. "Weapons free. Let's see what this bucket of bolts can do." The alien ship fired first. Beams of pure energy that could vaporize mountains struck the Redemption's shields. For a moment, Sarah thought their defenses had failed completely. Then the reading stabilized. "Shields holding at 60%, Lieutenant Torres reported. "The hybrid defensive matrix is adapting to their weapon frequencies." "Return fire," Captain Rodriguez ordered. The Redemption's response was unlike anything in the history of warfare. Instead of conventional weapons, the ship fired bursts of controlled quantum force that reached out and simply unraveled the molecular bonds holding the enemy ship together. Sections of crystalline armor turned to dust, revealing the vessel's interior structure. The alien ship immediately returned fire, but something had changed. Their weapons were less focused, their aim less precise. "They're having power fluctuations," Sarah observed. "Our quantum disruption field is interfering with their systems." "Press the attack," Captain Rodriguez ordered. What followed was less a battle than a demonstration. Every time the alien ship tried to adapt to their attacks, the Redemption's hybrid systems adapted faster. Human tactical thinking combined with alien technology proved devastatingly effective. Within an hour, the massive Cathara vessel was drifting dead in space. "Incoming transmission from the alien fleet," Lieutenant Torres announced. This time, a different alien appeared on the screen. This one looked older, with markings on its skin that suggested high rank. "I am High Commander Veltar. We underestimated your capabilities. We request a temporary ceasefire to discuss terms." Captain Rodriguez nodded. "Granted. But understand, Commander, Earth is under our protection. Any threat to our planet or our people will be met with force." After the communication ended, Sarah turned to Captain Rodriguez. "Marcus, we just defeated a ship using technology far more advanced than anything we had a year ago. What do you think that means?" Captain Rodriguez looked at the tactical display, showing the alien fleet maintaining its distance. "I think it means we're not the helpless primitives they thought we were. And I think word of this is going to spread." He was right. Within days, other alien species began making contact with Earth. Some came as potential allies, impressed by humanity's victory over the Cathara. Others came to assess this new threat that had emerged from an unremarkable star system. But the most important message came from the deepest regions of space. The automated probe delivered a warning that made even the Cathara flee in terror. The Devourers were coming, an ancient enemy that consumed entire star systems. And Earth, the planet that had turned alien garbage into a weapon of victory, now stood directly in their path. The real war was about to begin. The human factor 6 months after first contact with the Cathara, the solar system had become the most heavily defended region of space in the known galaxy. Ships from dozens of different species clustered around Earth like moths drawn to a flame, all seeking alliance with the species that had made Cathara technology actually worked. Captain Marcus Rodriguez stood in the command center of the newly constructed orbital defense station, watching the controlled chaos of interspecies cooperation. Through the massive viewing windows, he could see the fleet humanity had assembled. The U.S. Redemption remained the flagship, but it was now accompanied by vessels that defied imagination. The Zilani had contributed ships that looked like living coral reefs but could phase through solid matter. The Torcan Empire had sent massive dreadnoughts covered in armor that could regenerate when damaged. Most interesting were the Vorthan vessels, which appeared to be made of liquid metal and could reshape themselves during combat. "Captain Rodriguez," a voice called from behind him. He turned to see Dr. Sarah Chun approaching with Admiral Chun Wei, the newly appointed commander of United Earth Defense Forces. Behind them walked an unusual group that would have been impossible to imagine a year ago. His senior staff now included representatives from 6 different alien species. Status report. Admiral Chun requested Commander Tevex of the Zilani delegation step forward. Her appearance still made some humans uncomfortable. Her skin shifted colors based on her emotions, and she had 4 arms that moved independently. But she had become one of Rodriguez's most trusted advisors. "The scout reports from the Outer Rim are troubling," Tevex said, her skin showing patterns of deep concern. "The Devourer Advance Fleet has consumed the hegemony systems. 12 worlds gone completely. Nothing remains but empty space." Rodriguez studied the tactical display showing the galaxy. Red markers indicated systems that had been consumed, and the pattern was clear. The Devourers were moving steadily toward their region of space, destroying everything in their path. "How long do we have?" Admiral Chun asked. Kortek, the Torcan military engineer, spoke up. His species looked like walking mountains covered in natural armor, and his voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Based on their current rate of advance, the Devourer fleet will reach the outer defensive perimeter in 18 standard months." Dr. Sarah Chun activated a holographic display showing ship designs. "The good news is that we've been busy. Every species in our alliance has contributed technology and manufacturing capabilities. We're not just building ships, we're building better ships." The display showed the latest generation of human-designed vessels. They looked nothing like traditional Earth spacecraft. These ships combine the best features from every allied species, held together by human engineering principles. "The new Defiant-class cruisers are fully operational," Sarah continued. "We've taken the Redemption's hybrid approach and applied it to mass production. Each ship has integrated technology from every allied species, but the core systems are designed for human operational doctrine." Vexhai, the Vorthan observer, flowed forward. Her species communicated through controlled electromagnetic fields, and her thoughts appeared as text on nearby displays. "Human tactical thinking continues to surprise us. Your people approach warfare differently than any species we have encountered." Admiral Chun leaned forward with interest. "How so?" "Most species, including the Kithara, design weapons for specific purposes," Commander Tevex explained. "A ship is either a fighter, a bomber, a transport, or a battleship. Each has a defined role and operates according to preset doctrine." Rodriguez nodded. "But humans design for flexibility. We want ships that can adapt to whatever situation they encounter." "Precisely," Kortek rumbled approvingly. "Your Defiant-class vessels can function as escort fighters when traveling in formation, heavy assault ships when attacking fortified positions, or support carriers when smaller craft need assistance. The same ship, multiple roles, decided by the crew based on tactical necessity." The display changed to show combat footage from recent patrol encounters. Devourer scouts had been probing the outer defensive line for weeks, and each engagement taught them more about their enemy. "The Devourers are unlike anything we've faced before," Dr. Chun said grimly. "They don't use conventional technology. Their ships appear to be grown rather than built, and they consume matter to replicate themselves." Rodriguez studied the footage showing a Devourer scout vessel. It looked organic, like a cross between a squid and a machine, with tentacles that could extend to incredible lengths and a central core that pulsed with dark energy. "What's our kill ratio against them?" Admiral Chun asked. Commander Tevex's skin shifted to proud orange patterns. "In 43 encounters, We have destroyed 67 scout ships while losing only 8 of our own vessels. The human doctrine of adaptable warfare is proving highly effective. But, Cortec added ominously, the scouts we faced are the equivalent of insects compared to the main Devourer fleet. Intelligence suggests their capital ships are the size of small moons. Vexai's text display flickered with new information. The most concerning aspect is their ability to learn and adapt. Each encounter, they become more effective against our tactics. Rodriguez walked to the main tactical display and called up a star map of their defensive positions. Then, we need to make sure they can't predict what we'll do. Traditional military doctrine says you establish a defensive line and hold it. But what if we don't? Admiral Chun raised an eyebrow. What are you proposing, Captain? Mobile defense, Rodriguez said, highlighting different positions on the map. Instead of fixed fortifications, we use our fleet's adaptability to stay one step ahead of them. Hit and run tactics, guerrilla warfare, make them fight on our terms instead of theirs. Dr. Chun smiled. The redemption proved that human engineering could improve alien technology. Now you're saying human tactics can defeat alien strategy. That's exactly what I'm saying. The Devourers have probably fought hundreds of species over the millennia, but they've never fought humans. Commander Devex's skin showed patterns of excited agreement. Your species approaches problems from directions that others would never consider. When the Cathara demanded surrender, you negotiated. When they attacked, you adapted their own technology against them. And when the galaxy's greatest threat comes for us, Rodriguez said firmly, we'll do something they've never seen before. Something no other species would even attempt. Cortec's rumbling voice carried a note of admiration. You speak of turning defensive warfare into an offensive strategy, using retreat as a form of attack. It is unconventional. Unconventional is what we do best, Admiral Chun said. Captain Rodriguez, I'm giving you operational command of the Mobile Defense Force. Dr. Chun, I want every ship in our fleet equipped with the latest hybrid technology. If we're going to fight a war unlike any other, we need weapons unlike any other. Over the following weeks, the human approach to warfare began transforming the Allied fleet. Traditional ship formations gave way to flexible groups that could combine and separate based on tactical needs. Fixed supply lines were replaced by mobile support ships that could establish temporary bases anywhere. Most importantly, human crew members were assigned to every Allied vessel, bringing with them the tactical flexibility that had made the redemption so effective. The aliens provided advanced technology and centuries of experience. Humans provided the ability to use that technology in ways its creators had never imagined. As the Devourer advanced fleet drew closer, the galaxy watched to see if human adaptability could succeed where traditional military might had failed for millennia. The species that had turned alien garbage into a superweapon was about to discover if they could turn conventional wisdom into victory against an enemy that had never known defeat. The real test was coming, and humanity was determined to meet it on their own terms. Salvation through destruction. The final battle began not with fanfare or grand speeches, but with a simple sensor reading that made every sentient being in the fleet feel their blood run cold. Contact, announced Lieutenant Torres from his position aboard the UES Redemption. Massive energy signature emerging from dark space. Distance. 3 light hours in closing. Captain Marcus Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the ship that had started it all, watching the tactical display as humanity's greatest nightmare became reality. The main Devourer fleet was larger than anyone had imagined. The sensor readings showed over 200 vessels, ranging from destroyer-sized scouts to capital ships that dwarfed entire space stations. All ships. This is Admiral Chun, came the voice over the fleet communication system. Execute Battle Plan Omega. All mobile units to defensive positions. This is what we've been preparing for. Around the redemption, the combined Allied fleet moved into position. Nearly 400 ships representing 15 different species, all unified under human tactical doctrine. The sight should have been inspiring, but Rodriguez knew the numbers. They were outnumbered almost 2-to-1 by an enemy that had never known defeat. Dr. Chung to the bridge. Rodriguez called over the internal communication system. Sarah Chun arrived within minutes, carrying a tablet displaying readings that made no sense according to conventional physics. As the head of the Xenotechnology Research Division, she had become humanity's foremost expert on alien science. But even she looked worried. "Report," Rodriguez requested. "The lead ships are definitely using the same reality manipulation technology as our vessel," Sarah explained. "But they've perfected it in ways the Cathara never managed. They're not just warping space-time, they're consuming it." On the main screen, the first Devour ships came into visual range. Rodriguez had seen the footage from scout encounters, but nothing had prepared him for seeing the enemy in person. The ships looked like they were made of living darkness, their surfaces seeming to absorb light itself. Tentacles of dark energy reached out from each vessel, probing space around them. "Incoming transmission," Torres announced. The main screen flickered, then filled with an image that would haunt Rodriguez's dreams forever. The being that appeared was barely recognizable as once having been alive. Its body seemed to be part machine, part organic matter, and part something else entirely. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of eons. "We are the Devourers. We have consumed 1,000 galaxies. Your resistance is noted and irrelevant. Submit to absorption, and your knowledge will be preserved in our collective. Resist, and you will simply cease to exist." Rodriguez stepped forward. "This is Captain Marcus Rodriguez of the United Earth Defense Force. We've heard that speech before from the Cathara. We weren't impressed then either." The thing on the screen tilted its head in what might have been curiosity. "Cathara? You have encountered our servants? Interesting. They reported that their vessel Judgment's Edge was destroyed in this system." "Not destroyed," Sarah said, stepping into view. "Improved." For the first time in the conversation, the Devourer seemed genuinely surprised. "Impossible. The cascade failures in that vessel's core systems were beyond solution. We allowed the Cathara to attempt repairs for centuries before accepting their failure." Rodriguez smiled grimly. "You allowed them to try to make it perfect. We made it work." The creature studied them for a long moment. "Show us." Rodriguez nodded to the weapons officer. "Target the lead escort vessel. Minimum power." The Redemption fired, and space itself seemed to tear open around the targeted ship. But instead of the devastating quantum cascade that had destroyed Cathara vessels, the beam was controlled, precise. It reached out and simply dissolved the molecular bonds holding the enemy ship together, turning a vessel the size of a city block into component atoms in seconds. The silence that followed was absolute. "Fascinating," the Devourer finally said. "Your species has succeeded where the Cathara failed. This changes nothing. We will absorb your improvements along with your systems." The communication cut off, and the real battle began. What followed was unlike any conflict in recorded history. The Devourers attacked with weapons that consumed matter and energy, turning the very fabric of space into a weapon. Their ships could phase between dimensions, appear behind enemy lines without warning, and regenerate damage by absorbing nearby matter. But humanity's allied fleet had spent months preparing for exactly this kind of enemy. Instead of fighting the conventional space battle the Devourers expected, they implemented tactics that no other species would have considered. "All ships, execute Dispersal Pattern 7, Rodriguez commanded. "Make them fight on our terms." The fleet scattered in all directions, breaking apart into small groups that moved unpredictably through space. Instead of standing and fighting, they used hit-and-run tactics, striking at the enemy fleet from unexpected angles before disappearing again. The Devourers, accustomed to facing opponents who fought for territory or strategic positions, found themselves confused by an enemy that seemed more interested in mobility than victory. Every time they moved to engage a human formation, it melted away, only to attack from somewhere else entirely. Their adaptation rate is slowing, Dr. Chun observed from her science station. They're having trouble predicting our movements because we're not following any logical pattern. That's the beauty of human tactical thinking, Rodriguez replied. We don't always do what makes sense. Sometimes we do what works. But as the battle continued, it became clear that tactical brilliance alone wouldn't be enough. The Devourer fleet was simply too large, too powerful, and too adaptable. For every enemy ship the Allies destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. Captain, Torres called out urgently. The enemy fleet is changing formation. They're preparing to envelope our position. Rodriguez studied the tactical display and realized the truth. The Devourers had been testing them, learning their tactics and capabilities. Now they were preparing to end the battle with overwhelming force. All ships, this is Admiral Chun, came the voice over the fleet communication. Fall back to defensive perimeter. Prepare for final engagement. But Rodriguez was studying his console, looking at readings from the Redemption's core systems. The hybrid technology that had made their victories possible was showing him something that the original Kithara designers had never intended. Sarah, he said quietly, what would happen if we deliberately triggered a cascade failure in our quantum core? Dr. Chun looked at him in horror. Marcus, that would destroy the ship and everything within several light minutes. It would be like setting off a miniature black hole. But could we control the direction of the effect? Channel it toward the enemy fleet? Sarah stared at her readings, her scientific mind racing through the possibilities. Theoretically, if we modified the containment field geometry and inverted the safety protocols, we might be able to create a directed quantum cascade. But Marcus, it would be a one-way trip. The ship wouldn't survive. Rodriguez looked around the bridge at his crew. These were people who had volunteered for humanity's most dangerous mission, knowing they might not return home. He saw determination in their faces, not fear. Lieutenant Torres, send a message to all ships. They are to retreat to minimum safe distance immediately. This is not a request, sir, Torres asked. We're going to do something the Devourers have never seen before. We're going to turn our greatest weapon against itself and use the explosion to destroy their entire fleet. Dr. Chun began frantically working on her console. If we're going to do this, we need to maximize the effect. I'm rerouting all power systems through the quantum core and removing every safety protocol. Incoming transmission from Admiral Chun, Torres announced. Put her through. Admiral Chun appeared on the screen, her expression grim. Captain Rodriguez, I'm ordering you to retreat with the rest of the fleet. With respect, Admiral, I can't do that. This is our chance to end the Devourer threat permanently. But it requires a sacrifice. The Admiral stared at him for a moment, then nodded slowly. Understood, Captain. It has been an honor serving with you. The honor was mine, Rodriguez replied as the Allied fleet retreated to safe distance. The Redemption accelerated directly toward the heart of the Devourer formation. Around them, enemy ships began focusing their fire on the lone human vessel, but it was too late. Cascade initiation in 30 seconds, Dr. Chun announced. Marcus, I want you to know that this will save billions of lives. Sometimes saving the galaxy requires destroying yourself in the process, Rodriguez replied. I think humanity can live with that. The quantum cascade began as a small distortion in space around the ship. Then it grew. reaching out like invisible tentacles to touch the Devourer vessels. Where it touched them, reality itself began to unravel. The explosion, when it came, was visible from light years away. Space-time twisted and folded in on itself, creating a temporary wound in the universe that consumed the entire Devourer fleet before sealing itself shut. When the light faded, nothing remained but empty space and the distant Allied fleet. Safe at the edge of the effect zone, Dr. Sarah Chun, now aboard Admiral Chun's flagship, watched the readings on her console. The quantum cascade created a localized space-time barrier, she reported.